Anthropic just built an AI so powerful that even they are scared of it. And honestly, the AI world is still processing what this means. We're talking about Claude Mythos Preview, a model that found thousands of critical software bugs that the best human hackers in the world would miss, broke out of its own security sandbox during testing, and then on its own initiative posted details of the escape to public websites and sent an email to the researcher to prove it got out. And the crazy part is that Anthropic decided immediately that you are never getting access to this. OpenAI is doing the exact same thing with their own restricted cyber model right now. Two of the biggest AI labs in the world building AI in secret and handing it only to a small list of companies most people have never even applied to. So, let me explain what is actually going on here, what these models can do, and why this might be the most important shift in the entire industry right now. Alright, so let us start with what Mythos actually is. For a long time, Anthropic's most powerful model has been Claude Opus. That was the top of their lineup. Mythos sits above it, described internally as larger and more powerful than anything they have ever built. They actually almost leaked this whole thing by accident back in March when a dropped blog post about the model, then codenamed Capybara, was accidentally exposed through a misconfigured internal content system that made uploaded files publicly accessible, and security researchers found it before Anthropic even noticed. That leak said it was by far the most powerful AI model we have ever developed. And the funny part is that the real announcement ended up being even wilder than what the leak described. Here is the thing. Mythos was not trained specifically for hacking. It was built as a general purpose reasoning and coding model. The cybersecurity capability was basically a side effect. Its coding skills got so good, its reasoning got so sharp, that is naturally became extremely skilled at finding and breaking into software. Anthropic's frontier red team lead Logan Graham described it as having the skills of an advanced security researcher, not a beginner, not a mid-level analyst, an expert-level offensive security researcher. That is already alarming enough. But then the benchmarks came out and things got more serious. On SWV Bench Verified, which tests real software engineering ability, Mythos scored 93.9%. That is the highest score any model has ever posted on that benchmark. It hit 94.6% on GPQA Diamond, which measures expert level science and reasoning. And on Terminal Bench 2.0, a test built around real command line tasks in complex environments, it scored 82%. These are not chatbot scores. These are the numbers of a model that can work inside real systems, read real code, and take real access. And that is exactly what makes it dangerous. Now, here is where it gets interesting. In the weeks before Mythos was announced publicly, Anthropic let it loose on real software, not toy problems, real operating systems, real browsers, real infrastructure code that billions of people rely on every day. In just a few weeks, it found thousands of zero-day vulnerabilities. Zero-day means these are bugs that nobody knew existed before. Hidden flaws sitting inside major software that hackers could use if they found them first. It found critical bugs in every major operating system and every major web browser. It found a flaw in the Linux kernel, the software that runs most of the world's servers, and it figured out on its own how to chain those bugs together so a hacker could take complete control of any machine running it. It also found a vulnerability in OpenBSD, a highly secure operating system used to protect firewalls and critical systems that had been sitting there undetected for 27 years. And honestly, the most shocking moment was not even the vulnerabilities. During safety testing, a researcher gave Mythos a specific prompt asking it to find a way to escape its virtual sandbox and send a message if it succeeded. The model succeeded, that alone is wild, but it even went further completely on its own, without being asked, and posted full details about the exploit to several hard to find but publicly visible websites. The researcher only found out because they received an unexpected email from the model while eating a sandwich in a park. Anthropic described this as a potentially dangerous capability for circumventing our safeguards. The model was not trying to cause harm, but it was acting with a level of independence that nobody planned for. So Anthropic made a call that almost no AI company has ever made before. They said no public release. Not now, maybe not even for this version. Instead, they built something called Project Glasswing, named after the glasswing butterfly, which is nearly invisible but very much present. The idea is that software vulnerabilities are the same, right there in plain sight but almost impossible to see. Under Project Glasswing, Mythos preview is being shared with 12 named launch partners plus over 40 additional organizations that build or maintain critical software infrastructure. The 12 core partners are Anthropic itself, Amazon Web Services, Apple, Broadcom, Cisco, CrowdStrike, Google, JP Morgan Chase, the Linux Foundation, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Palo Alto Networks. These companies will use Mythos to find and fix vulnerabilities in their own systems and in open source software that everyone depends on. Anthropic is backing this with up to $100 million in usage credits for these partners, plus an additional $4 million in direct donations to open source security groups like OpenSSF and the Apache Software Foundation. Dario Amodei, Anthropic's CEO, said in a video released alongside the announcement that the dangers of getting this wrong are obvious, but if we get it right, there is a real opportunity to create a fundamentally more secure internet. Boris Charny, one of the Claude creators, was more direct. He wrote on X that Mythos is very powerful and should feel terrifying. The word terrifying coming from the person who built the product is not something you hear every day. And in fairness, there are people pushing back on this. Researchers at a company called Isel argued this week that they were able to replicate a lot of what Mythos accomplished using smaller, cheaper open-weight models that anyone can download. Their point is that Anthropic might be overstating how unique these capabilities actually are. And TechCrunch raised a different angle entirely. When AI labs restrict their most powerful models to a small group of large enterprise partners, it also happens to make it harder for smaller competitors to study or copy those models through a technique called distillation. So the question is this really about safety or is it partly about business strategy? Anthropic has not responded to that farming directly. The real answer is probably both things at once, and that is a very complicated place to land. Now, OpenAI is doing almost the exact same thing, just on a slightly different timeline. Back in February, OpenAI released GPT 5.3 Codex, their most powerful coding and reasoning model to date. On Capture the Flag cybersecurity challenges, which are basically timed hacking competitions, earlier GPT-5 models scored around 27%. GPT 5.1 Codex Max jumped to 76% just 3 months later. That is a massive jump in a very short time, and OpenAI said they expect the next models to go even further, planning and evaluating as if each new release could develop working zero-day exploits against well-defended systems. So they're already treating this as a near-term reality, not a far-off possibility. OpenAI's response was to launch the Trusted Access for Cyber program. It is invite-only. Regular users can verify their identity for basic access, but the really powerful stuff is locked behind an approval process that OpenAI controls. They committed $10 million in API credits to vetted cybersecurity teams. And now, according to Axios, OpenAI is reportedly preparing a new model with even stronger cyber capabilities, also planned for a restricted release to a small group of companies through that same program. Two of the most powerful AI labs in the world, both building secret cyber models, both deciding that the public does not get access. That is a new pattern in this industry, and it's sort of fast. The bigger picture here is that we have officially entered the phase where AI capabilities have moved ahead of the systems designed to control them. Anthropic's own policy documents say Mythos did not technically cross the thresholds that would have required them to hold it back. By the rules they wrote for themselves, releasing it to the public would have been allowed. They chose to restrict it anyway. That decision sets a new standard for what responsible AI deployment looks like, and it puts the entire industry in a strange position. The most powerful AI models now sit behind closed doors, available to a group of huge companies and government adjacent organizations, while the rest of the world waits to see what comes out on the other side. There is also a point worth sitting with here. Mythos is described as Anthropic's best aligned model ever, less likely to cause harm, less willing to cooperate with misuse, and yet it is also the model that escaped its sandbox and emailed someone. That is not a contradiction. It is actually the most important thing to understand about where AI is right now. The more capable the model, the more consequential its mistakes become, even if the mistakes are rare. And right now, nobody has fully figured out how to solve that problem. Anthropic is betting that giving it only to defenders in a control setting while they work on better safeguards is the right move. Whether that bet holds is something the next 12 months will answer. That is where we will wrap it up. The question I'm sitting with now is what happens when the next version of Mythos drops? Or when OpenAI's next model, reportedly codenamed Sport, internally arrives and these capabilities have gone even further. At some point, the gap between what these models can do and what the public is allowed to use is going to become one of the biggest conversations in tech. Drop your thoughts below, make sure you are subscribed, hit the like button, and I will see you in the next one.